Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, where I make whatever content I feel like making. Is it an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan video? Is it about makeup? Is it a music review? Who knows? It's me. So I've been watching a lot of makeup YouTubers lately, and one of the things that they do a lot is a chatting about new releases video. And I figured, I could do that. Music also has releases, right? So this is obviously not going to be comprehensive of whatever the whole spectrum of music that's come out this past couple months. It's going to be very specific to what I'm following and what's my music taste, and I'll probably be a little more thorough if I keep doing this. But I just wanted to talk about a few things because I have some opinions. And if I didn't talk about something that you happen to know that I'm into, it just means that I didn't have a take that was worth making a video about. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the things that were disappointments. We'll move from disappointments to sort of things that are mixed and things that are good and I really love and I highly recommend listening to. So the first disappointment is Lorde, which I really hate to say because Lorde's my age, and so when Pure Heroine came out, I was exactly the right age to appreciate it and exactly the right age to really relate to her as a person and, her teenage insight, I guess. And so I really love melodrama too. I really love the concept album thing. And just the way that it used pop music to sort of talk about pop music's role in like exploring really powerful and simple emotion, broadcast the boom, boom, boom and make them all dance to it, right? But I'm just not feeling the new songs. I understand the discourse about like Lorde's allowed to make happy music now. She doesn't have to be teen angst forever, and like. Because like I get that, like I'm totally fine with her growing up with me and not being the same teenager she was, but there was something she said in one of her mailing, her email, the way she talks about the pressure to come back to the world. She frames it in pretty much entirely as sort of a music industry kind of thing. Like this sort of pressure to stay on top of pop culture and like, keep your finger on the pulse and be plugged in and that sort of thing. Which, yeah, I mean, that is a problem. Like, that she sort of feels that pressure to like just constantly be online and tapped in or whatever. And I've definitely, I know people who are too online. I have been too online at different points in my life. I definitely see the value in not being, as always connected to everything that's going on in the world. But it feels like she's almost kind of swung to the extreme. Like you can be like you don't have to totally disconnect, I guess. And then that attitude just kind of makes its way into the two songs, where she just comes off very, very disconnected. Solar Power is fine. It's mostly just kind of boring to me because it's just about going to the beach, and it's not even like really energetic and enough of a bop to just be a fun bop. That's pretty. Like the end bit where she sings the phrase "Solar Power" is pretty, but like that's basically all it is. It feels a little weird to me to like be totally disconnected from, the world's issues and make a song about that and then title it Solar Power. A phrase that kind of evokes like, environmentalism. But it's kind of a minor nitpick. Stoned at the Nail Salon I have more of a problem with, just because if you think about like, it's trying harder, I guess, to be deeper. And if you think about the image of someone who is Stoned at the Nail Salon is they're kind of like spacing out while someone is like taking care of them. And again, I'm not shaming anyone who goes to a spa and, you know, or even anyone who got high when they went to the spa. Like, that's fine. No, you can still enjoy yourself just because other people are struggling. But there's this kind of like attempt to find depth in the sort of dumb little musings she has while stoned at the nail salon. And it just comes off like it comes off like someone who's been living in a bubble and doesn't really understand. And it doesn't, it's not helped by the fact that both the songs are produced by Jack Antonoff, and I usually love his production, to be clear. I actually love a lot of the albums he's worked on. But the thing with Lorde is that she is in the same genre as Lana Del Rey, and Jack Antonoff has done a lot of work with Lana Del Rey, particularly like recently in 2019. You know, so that's kind of what comes to mind when we see these, when I hear these sort of like hazy, chill Jack Antonoff tracks, is I hear Lana Del Rey, and she is so very much an artist who's always kind of come off like she's living in a bubble and not really on the same plane as everyone else, and her attempts at being sort of politically aware or whatever just always fall flat, you know, unless she's being very, very vague. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if I dislike Lorde as a person, if I think she's like some privileged girl just totally up her own ass or anything. But there's a little bit of that vibe off the songs. And it makes me uncomfortable. I'll still listen to the album, because you can't judge an album just by its first few singles, but I don't know. I kind of wish Lorde would be more thoughtful than she is, you know, that her music would be more deep. The next artist I want to talk about for this section is another indie girl that I related to a lot as a teenager, who's in a better place now, but is not really making music that I at all vibe with. And that is Marina, formerly known as Marina and the Diamonds. I did not like Love and Fear at all. It was super boring. Like, there were a couple songs I liked, but mostly the entire album sounded the same, and the lyrics were really shallow. Her new album, Ancient Dreams in a Modern Land, is definitely an improvement. It's at the very least more sonically interesting. It's got this kind of 80s pop thing going on, and she's a little more lyrically ambitious, being very upfront about her politics. That said, I still don't really like it that much. I could kibitz the politics. Like, there's a lot of discussion of like feminine energy and like kind of some gender essentialism that kind of, I feel, always undermines feminism when people say it. And there's this really cringy line about like all her friends being witches that live in Hollywood, like as if she hasn't like spent a lot of her social commentary part of her career like criticizing like Hollywood, you know, celebrity culture. You know, but ultimately I don't think that's the main problem with it. I think it's just that every song comes off like she's giving a speech about her opinions, and not like, I don't know, not like a song, you know. It feels like she's preaching to me, and I just, you know, no matter how much fun 80s production you put on it, you know, if the lyrics are bland, the lyrics are bland. So next I want to talk about the mixed category. And I decided to call it mixed instead of like mediocre or meh, because both of those just sounded like way more negative than I really wanted this to be. I like all the artists I'm going to talk about here, and two of them are multiple song releases where I just didn't love some of the other songs as much as some. So it's less a matter of like, didn't like and more a matter of didn't love. You know what I mean? The first album I want to talk about in this section is wary+strange by Amethyst Kiah. I was super excited for this album. I got into Amethyst Kiah because I saw her recommended as a queer country singer with a Southern Gothic aesthetic, and I love the Southern Gothic sound. That dark Americana blues folk spooky vibe is just, I think it's great. I really loved her first album, Dig. It's mostly covers of old blues and bluegrass songs. She's got such a great voice and such a great like presence, and it's just also really great to hear like a queer woman singing these old blues songs about falling in love with a beautiful girl. I love the album and I highly recommend it if you are into that like Southern Gothic sound. I also really liked the first two singles from wary+strange, Black Myself and Wild Turkey. Black Myself is a reworking of a song she wrote for another group she was in called Our Native Daughters, consisting of black female bluegrass players. That version was more like bluegrass, like banjo, and then this one is more like pumped up blues rocky kind of vibe, and it's just, I love it. Wild Turkey is a more like a ballad type thing about the loss of her mother, I believe, when she was a teenager, and it's and then sort of how she like closed off emotionally after that, and it's really powerful and touching. In terms of the album itself, a lot of the good songs like Black Myself and Wild Turkey, and then the other single, Hangover Blues, are all at the front of the album, and it kind of just at a certain point it kind of started to feel a little repetitive, a little like the sound was good, but ultimately like just somehow the songs were just not clicking as much, and I feel bad about that because like I said, I really loved a lot of her work. I still am really interested to see what other work she does, and I still highly recommend, checking her out if you're into that sound. The next artist I want to talk about in this section is Zella Day, who I first heard about like back in like 2016 because she was like another indie girl singer ripoff of Lana Del Rey. Like, it's actually kind of bordering on plagiarism. Listen to her song Jerome and the way she says the phrase blue jeans, and then like listen to Lana Del Rey's song Blue Jeans and tell me that's like not skirting the line. But recently, actually last year, right about when Lana like stuck her foot in her mouth with her stupid Instagram post, Zella Day started releasing new music, and it was like good. She changed her sound to be a little more like deliberately vintage. Like Lana is definitely vintage, but like a little more like kind of like Zella Day cut out the middleman. Like instead of being vintage via Lana Del Rey, she's like vintage via taking inspiration from vintage. And I really liked it. In the past couple months, she's released 3 singles, Golden, Girls, and Dance for Love, and she sort of like released them, the 3 of them, like they're like sort of clumped together on Spotify, so I'm kind of gonna talk about all 3. The reason this has been mixed is just because of the 3 songs, like I think 2 of them are fine, and then one of them is like, actually, I really like it. And that one is Girls. It's kind of this hazy California psychedelic kind of thing. I guess I would say, like, it's, in terms of what I can reference, it's most similar to West Coast by Lana Del Rey, but I also think that's probably my limited understanding of the references that Zella Day is pulling from. But it's a cool vibe, and I really like it. I think I'm still just surprised that Zella Day is putting out music I like. Like, if you'd told me like back in 2015 when I first heard about her, that in 2021 I'd be more excited for one song that she released than like Marina's whole album. Like, I would have thought you were nuts. Like, what a twist. I'm not complaining, it's just, what a twist. So the last artist I want to talk about in this section is someone I just want to talk about in general because she's not very well known, but I really love her stuff. And that is cmat. She's an Irish artist who makes these country pop songs with this very fun, self-deprecating humor to them. They're often about being a bit of a mess, but let's put a fun spin on it. Her newest song is called Too Wrecked to Care, and it's about insomnia. And it has, like, all these fun descriptions of, like, how you feel when you're on, like, 1 or 2 hours of sleep. My favorite is that on 1 hour of sleep, you're the missing link between the living and the dead. You know, been there. I was a college student. The only reason that this is, in mixed is just because I don't love it as much as I love some of her other songs, particularly I Want to Be a Cowboy Baby and I Don't Really Care for You. I highly recommend checking both of those out. Yes, I Want to Be a Cowboy Baby is a Vine reference. It's great. Yeah, I just love her stuff and I think she deserves so much hype. So let's get into the good stuff. Right off the bat, I just want to say I really like Megan Thee Stallion's new single, especially the music video, which deals with the way that a lot of people will lump women into one of two categories. Either this hypersexualized object to be exploited and degraded, or this, like, person who holds a job and dresses respectable and gets treated with respect. Obviously, anyone who thinks of women in these terms isn't actually being respectful, but that's the idea, that there's, like, this kind of woman that you can treat badly and this kind of woman that does things in society and does respectable things. And then the whole point of the song and the music video is that, like, that's the same person. That people who hold jobs are also the people who will go out and party and dress provocatively and have sex. Oh my god. And that, you know, basically this idea that there's, like, this one kind of woman that's, like, bad and one kind of woman that's good is just stupid. And I think that's really smart. And I think, like, somehow you'd think that, like, a video where, like, every woman around this guy is, like, dressing sexy and provocative and, like, twerking in his face would be, like, you know, his dream, but, like, it actually comes off like he is terrified to know that every woman he knows is potentially one of the people who he degrades. Great song, great video. Thanks. Next I want to talk about another semi-obscure Irish artist, and that is the band Soda Blonde, formerly known as Little Green Cars. Little Green Cars had two main vocalists, Stevie Appleby and Faye O'Rourke. Unfortunately, Stevie had to leave the band due to some mental health issues, so when the band reformed with Faye as the, like, main lead singer, they changed the name and went in a bit of a different direction sonically. As much as I love Stevie's contributions to the band, I also really love Faye's, and she's always had a very powerful voice and a lot of, like, front woman energy, I guess, and so I was really excited to see, you know, what they would do. Unfortunately, their beginnings as a band were kind of thrown off by the pandemic. I believe Little Green Cars announced that they were breaking up, like, sometime near the end of 2019. So Soda Blonde kind of didn't really get a chance to, like, shine until this year. And, but I'm really happy for them now. I really like their new direction. Little Green Cars was more of a folk rock band, but, Soda Blonde is a little more, like, a little more pop, a little more pumped up, and Faye's voice really actually works very well. She can kind of do that, like, powerful dance diva kind of thing. It's not, like, totally dance music, but, like, in that sense of, like, a more electronic instrumentation with a very powerful vocal works really well. I really loved it was actually their first single, like, as a band, but it's on the album, so I'm gonna count it. I really like Swimming Through the Night. I really like their song Dark Trapeze, which I think kind of brings in a little more of their, like, folk background a little bit, just because there's these really great full band harmonies on it that remind me a bit of what they used to do, but still with a little more pumped up production and Faye as the lead vocalist. The first song on the album, called Tiny Darkness, is about, like, kind of the process of starting a new band and how, like, intimidating that is, and how stressful that was. I gotta say, though, like, there's a line in there that's like, maybe I should have just gotten a degree, and, like, I promise you, life does not get less confusing when you have a degree. I feel like I'm just really happy for the band on, like, a personal level, just because, like, I think the niche that, like, Mitski filled for a lot of people, like a lot of women particularly, I think was something that Faye filled for me at a certain point in my life. And so I'm really excited for her. I really want her to succeed, and the fact that the band, like, had this rough start because of the pandemic, like, I'm really happy that they're releasing music. And I think Ireland is actually doing better with the pandemic, so they might even be able to do live gigs, which is super important for smaller musicians because they don't get the, like, high streaming numbers. So, like, live shows and then, like, just regular music sales are kind of the most important for them. Gotta say, if Soda Blonde ever do tour the US, I am buying tickets so fast. You have no idea. Next, I want to talk about Yola. She is an Americana country artist. She's actually British, which always baffles me because her music sounds very American. But what she does is she makes these songs that feel very, like, classic, very, like, very familiar, but they're never, like, boring or derivative or you're like, oh, I've just heard this before. It's just very enjoyable stuff. She released a new album at the end of July called Stand For Myself, and it was really good. I really liked the title track. It was this kind of blues rock song that was very empowering and very much about, like, self-confidence. And then I also really liked the one of the other singles, Starlight, which was just this very pretty, vintagey love song. It's kind of hard to talk about what makes the album good, because, like, it's not like it's doing something that's, like, so radical and different and, like, super deep commentary or whatever. It's just good. Like, I don't know how to tell you. Like, if you like some good vintagey tunes, like, check it out. Like, sometimes you don't have to be doing anything groundbreaking to make good music. Next up, Lucy Dacus' new album is really good. What I've always appreciated about Lucy Dacus is that she's a very direct singer-songwriter. You can really hear this on the Boy Genius EP, which is the EP she made with Julianne Baker and Phoebe Bridgers. Her songs on that EP are the ones that just sort of, like, get straight to the point of what they're about and what the message is, I guess. Whereas, like, Phoebe, I feel like I like a lot of Phoebe Bridgers' music, don't get me wrong, but sometimes she kind of just starts listing things, like, usually, like, vaguely unsettling things that happen to her, and then she just kind of lets them sit there, and they don't really all come together in any sense. It's not a bad songwriting, like, technique, it's just not really my personal favorite. I like a, like, solid concept, and I especially love a concept album where you can really feel like a cohesive through line through the whole album. And that is actually what Home Video is. It's about her coming back to her hometown and sort of reminiscing about her teenage years and how she feels about that in retrospect. There's a lot of very intimate and personal story songs on this album, and the thing is that that's actually a very tough thing to pull off a lot of the time, because if you make something too specific, it's not really going to be relatable to everyone. But Lucy's really good, I think, because she has this, I don't know how to put it, but just, like, this quality where she knows what she's about with each song that she makes. You know, that it all kind of comes together and doesn't just feel like she's just drifting aimlessly through the stories. There's like a real point to each story and to each detail that is included. And yeah, I just really love it. I think my favorite song might be the opener, Hot and Heavy, but that also might be because I'm associating it with a story I'm writing currently. So I think that might change, but really good. I really recommend listening to it. Finally, I think the first part of this video made it seem like I don't like when former sad girl musicians make happy albums, but the last album I want to talk about in this video is actually exactly that. It's Jubilee by Japanese Breakfast. In fact, that was the intention behind the album. Michelle Zauner said in an interview that after writing 2 albums and also a memoir about grieving the loss of her mother, she wanted to move into some happier territory in her newest album. I think the song that best encapsulates this album's attitude towards happiness is my favorite on the album, Slide Tackle, which is about how when you've been sad for a while, it can kind of be like a little bit of an effort to try to make yourself happy again. You kind of have to like fight with your brain a little bit to get it to accept that, like, you know, you can be okay now. And then sometimes you'll have days where you just like kind of backslide a little bit. Like, yeah, sometimes you do have to like slide tackle your brain to get yourself to feel happy if you've been sad for a while. It's real. So much good stuff on this album. Like, on the sadder end, you have like Tactics, which is this really beautiful heartbreak ballad. And then on the happier end, you have like the absolute bop, Be Sweet. And then, Savage Good Boy. It's a song sung from the point of view of a billionaire trying to seduce someone into staying in his apocalypse bunker with him. And it's like such a like funny satire. If you really liked Rat by Penelope Scott and like how it was an Elon Musk diss track, you'll really like this one. It's a little less like really like mean. It's very like upbeat and happy love song, but like secretly very scathing. I love it so much. So that's all I got for today. I hope to do this next month, but I have no idea. It turns out filming YouTube videos is hard. Hope you enjoyed. Hey, sweetie. Hey. Hey, baby boy. Hello. Hello. Do you want to just like hang out with me while I finish this?